welcome to Good Game Spawn Point, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Barjo.
And I'm Hex.
And I am Darren.
Coming up on the show, a grumpy elephant saves the day. It's the unstoppable might of Tembo.
That game is elephantastic, but it's not all smashing stuff up as we prepare to get sneaky in the swindle.
Whoa, so much side-scrolling this week.
Did you know the first ever side-scrolling game is considered to be the arcade shooter Defender, which was released in 1981? Pew, 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 pew.
Whoa, so long ago. But Darren, you should be saving up your gaming trivia because you still owe us a challenge.
Oh, there's plenty more where that came from, Hex. Spark up your synapses, Spawnlings. It's time for a Darren's Challenge! This week, I'm asking you this. In LEGO Jurassic World, which of the dinosaurs has the ability to knock over trees? Answer at the end of the show.
Tricky one, Darren. Oh, now it's time for Goose with the news.
Affirmative.
Thanks guys, Goose here with all the Spawn Point news. A school in Sweden has announced that they will be introducing esports into their curriculum in the coming semester as a way to move with the times and dispel the stigma surrounding video games. The classes will function similar to educational units such as sport, with one news source reporting the introduction of school teams, guest lecturers, and even a competitive tournament as their end-of-term project. No word yet on exactly how many hours of homework are expected each night, but I'm betting this is one set of homework that won't be eaten by the dog. The image of a woman on Mars has been making headlines recently, just 1 week after news of an apparent giant Mars crab. Unfortunately, however, both, while very cool, are simply examples of pareidolia, which is a phenomenon where our minds turn random patterns into familiar shapes and images. Basically, it's the same phenomenon that makes you interpret a shadow in the corner of the room as a robot. Oh, that is Darren. That's okay. A new US-based study conducted by Facebook reveals that LOL is no longer the way we laugh out loud on the internet. According to the report, the most common way people laugh with text is with a simple ha-ha, with over 50% of people laughing that way. Ha-ha was followed by the use of emojis, then came hee-hee, and finally less than 2% of users still use LOL. Unfortunately, there are still no statistics on how many people are ruffling. And that's all the news for this week. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Goose. Hey, Hex, what do you get when you mix Dumbo, an action hero, and Sonic?
I don't know, Barjo, what do you get?
You get Tembo. Tembo is a butt-kicking, bandana-wearing elephant tasked with stopping Phantom from invading Shell City in the side-scroller. The story is told with cool comic-style cutscenes, which set up the over-the-top, playful atmosphere nicely.
Yeah, I love the cartoony art style and the onomatopoeia that pops up as Tembo races around the map.
Onomatopoeia? Who's that?
Onomatopoeia, Barjo. It means a word that imitates the sound it's referring to.
Yeah, so an example of an onomatopoeia would be meow, because it's a word and it's also a sound that a cat makes.
My cats go meow. Sometimes they go meow, like that too.
Okay, enough cat talk, you two. Back to the review. This is a game from the developer Game Freak, which is the same company that makes Pokemon. Gameplay is classic adventure platforming. You'll be defeating enemies to earn skulls, collecting peanuts to earn lives, and rescuing civilians out of the goodness of your heart. All while navigating some tricky environments.
There's a decent amount of challenge, and you'll have to play each level a number of times to learn it. In fact, the game requires it. For example, there are some sections where you need to leave certain platforms intact so you can use them to jump to groups of enemies. But you wouldn't necessarily know that on your first playthrough.
Yeah, some things are also hidden, so you have to be vigilant and check carefully. Extra big peanut loot, civilians, even entirely new areas are sneakily tucked away. And sometimes you can see them, but can't figure out how to reach them.
It becomes rather important you figure out how to reach them, however, as you have to collect nearly every skull to be able to unlock the last level of each area.
But the game does try to keep you on your toes to stave off too much repetition. For example, I couldn't help but chuckle at the level where you had to go left instead of right, because you had to go right in all the other levels, and he started that level facing right. I mean, I just assumed there was a platform or something I couldn't see, and I charged straight off a cliff. Whoops.
That one got me too. There's also quite a variety of enemy types, and you have to figure out how best to approach them.
Affirmative. For example, these fellows hiding under a spiky shell require a well-positioned butt stomp to overturn their defenses. These can take a bit of time to test and figure out, but they add some variety and none are particularly hard.
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty more so comes from your limited lives, I think. Each time your health bar empties, you eat a jar of peanut butter to restart at the last checkpoint. Yum. You can fill these jars by collecting peanuts around the map. But it's really easy to make a series of little mistakes and end up losing all of your peanut lives altogether, especially if there's a particular area that you're really struggling with.
Yeah, I found it pretty frustrating and unforgiving at times, especially because your controls don't feel very tight, and that means when you make a mistake, it doesn't always feel fair. We used a controller, and it's all too easy to accidentally butt stomp your way to the floor when you didn't mean to.
Yeah, that happened to me a little bit too. And the dash and jump didn't always work together the way I instinctively thought they would. And I did get used to it the more I played of this game, but it never felt quite right, did it?
Affirmative. I found trying to wrangle the giant bowling balls particularly troublesome. I just needed to go up this ledge. Oh, come on. I had calculated the trajectory precisely. The game just did not want to cooperate.
Oh, that sounds like something a noob would say! Oh, Darren's gonna be a noob watch soon! No, but you are right, Darren. It is very difficult to get that angle right, and at times I just found it more frustrating than fun. And these tricky sections really broke the flow of what should be a fairly fast-paced game.
That being said, it was really satisfying to ace a section after failing it a bunch of times. Oh, and the destruction, Barjo. The way that enemies fly and environments crumble under your elephant weight is just fantastic. I just love a good butt stomp.
Charging my butt stomp!
Careful! Darren, don't break the studio. Final thoughts, Barjo?
Well, once I got into the swing of this, I had a pretty good time, but I just don't like the way that you have to unlock later levels by repeating earlier ones, so I'm giving it 2.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Well, this isn't a long game, but there are a few things that extend the playtime. Finding every last collectible is challenging, and you can always try speedrunning the levels. I quite enjoyed it. I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Now it's time for me to deliver some tactical tips with Goose.
Bye, Darren.
Bye, Darren.
Wish my body was made of metal.
Strategies.
Attention!
Oh, yes, Field Marshal Darren.
At ease, General Goose.
Oh, I must have slept in. What time is it?
It's strategy time.
Ah, excellent. And what strategy are we discussing today?
Well, sir, it's a clever little tactic in World of Tanks that I like to call the Derp Gambit. In World of Tanks, smaller caliber guns are generally more accurate, and armor-piercing ammunition is more likely to penetrate, hence their ubiquitous use.
Enemy destroyed.
But some tanks can carry very large caliber guns. Because of their poor accuracy and poor penetration with armor-piercing rounds, they are often called derp guns.
But their high explosive shells can do spectacular damage. If your shot penetrates, you can one-shot many of the targets you'll encounter.
Fire on target. We finished him off. Target spotted. Enemy armor is destroyed.
To use the Derp Gambit, select a tank with a high caliber gun, such as the M4, the Panzer IV, or the KV-2. From consumables, make sure you load up with plenty of HE shells. And once the match begins, switch over from the default AP to HE rounds.
There are some downsides to the Derp Gambit. Derp guns have long reload times, long aim times, and are highly unpredictable.
Bounced off.
You have to be daring and get in close for the best chance of hitting.
Target locked.
And at close range, you'll be very intimidating. The red team will think twice when they catch a glimpse of you and your derp gun.
Indeed, sir.
Well, hey, now, Darren, I'm going to catch a couple more Z's while you think up another strategy or two.
Very good, sir. Have a well-earned break, sir. That's right, Goose. Dream. Dream you're a field marshal.
Thanks, Darren and Goose. Okay, well, hopefully this week we can have a complaint-free Ask Spawn Point. All right, so this one is, it's a complaint, and it's from Noob Complaint, who is somewhere in Victoria.
It never ends!
Oh. A few weeks ago on your show, Goose said that it took 10 years for NASA's New Horizons probe to reach Pluto. He was wrong! It took 9 years for the probe to reach its destination, so Goose has to drink from the Noob Cup. P.S. Could Darren at least do a video noob referee just in case?
Well, at least we're not in trouble this time, Hex, but we should get Darren to check this one out. Darren's phone number this week, I believe, is Quick Punch.
Hello.
Hey, Darren, hey, we've had another complaint.
What have you got wrong this time?
No, it wasn't us, Darren, it was Goose.
Goose? What did he say?
Well, apparently Goose said the New Horizons probe took 10 years to reach Pluto, but it only took 9.
Well, New Horizons launched in January 2006 and reached Pluto in July 2015, which is 9.5 years. So the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Well, should you maybe run what he actually said through the noob video referee just to check?
Of course. Let's take a look.
Video Noob Referee.
Some of you may remember a story from our recent space special about the New Horizon probe taking the first ever colour photo of Pluto. Now the plucky probe has completed its closest flyby of the dwarf planet after travelling nearly 5 billion kilometres over the last 10 years. Kilometres over the last 10
The decision is no noob.
What? No, noob, but he clearly said 10 years.
I agree it could have been more accurate, but he did say over the last 10 years. And the probe has been travelling to Pluto over a period which covers 10 individual years. So he was not technically wrong.
Semantics.
Well, I guess he narrowly avoided the Noob Cup today. But while you're here, Darren, we have a question for you from Jostin, who is in Brisbane, Queensland. Do you want to answer it?
I'd love to. Hi, GGSP. Huge fan of the show. This is a question for Darren. With the use of motion capture in games like FIFA, how do the developers use the data to create realistic characters? Thanks. Oh, and do these. Oh. Hurt. Oh, excellent question, Jostin. While there are a variety of motion capture technologies, they all work off a similar principle. Motion capture systems essentially track various points on a human's body and turn any movements they make into data. Then they can use that data to recreate those detailed and realistic movements as animations for game characters.
It's a bit like how the Kinect works, isn't it?
Oh, it's almost exactly how the Kinect works, Barcho. The Kinect can track points on your body with a range of sensors, then turn that information into a digital skeleton and use that to control and animate a game character in real time.
But game developers don't use Kinect for motion capture, do they?
Well, some smaller developers may use them as a cheap alternative, but most professional motion capture systems are typically much larger and more complicated than a Kinect, so that they can capture far more precise detail.
So essentially, motion capture just records someone running around and doing a bunch of actions, and they can just drop that into a game?
Well, essentially, yes, but there is more work that needs to go into it than that. Animators will need to take the data and program it into the game to create strings of complex movements that can flow into each other. So they may capture a player running and also a player kicking a ball, and then they'll need to make sure the game character can smoothly transition between those two animations.
All right, but what about people's faces? How do they make them look real?
Oh, well, facial motion capture works off the same principle, but usually requires a special system that can see the face in much more detail. Although even using a simple webcam, certain software such as FaceRig can animate a character in surprising detail. However, to create real faces for FIFA, they also use a type of photography to take photos from a range of angles for each player. These can then be used to create a detailed model, which is then animated later using data from motion capture sessions.
Oh, well, thanks for all that, Darren. Very informative, as always.
Oh, my pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye, Darren.
Goodbye.
All right, well, let's move along now to this one from the Queen of Cats, who is in, of course, the Cat Kingdom in Victoria.
All hail the Cat Queen! As the Queen of Cats, I get particular curious, especially about games. I've heard about the new 3DS and want some information on it. Can you give some information of the new 3DS and if I should get it? I'm interested, but I already have a normal 3DS. Also, can it play normal DS games? Darren needs his accent chip assessed. Visiting so many galaxies and jumping through time seems to have got him confused. Whoa. Lastly, what does DS stand for? I keep thinking the D is digital, but no idea what the S is, so I sometimes call it the digital something. Quack, quack, quack. Thank you. Cat Queen out. Meow. 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 All hail the Cat Queen. Well, your feline highness, the new 3DS has a bunch of little upgrades that you may feel are worth upgrading for. But I'd say if you already have a 3DS, you'd be fine just to stick with that.
Yeah, it's essentially the same as an old 3DS XL in most ways, but has a few nice upgrades. I think the biggest new features include the inbuilt Amiibo reader, a new little thumb nub and shoulder buttons, as well as face tracking 3D, which makes it easier to keep that 3D effect in focus.
They're all nice features, but I don't know if I'd recommend upgrading just for them. But yes, it can play old DS games, but so can any 3DS or 2DS model.
As for what DS stands for, well, according to Nintendo, it stands for two things actually. Firstly, it stands for Developers System, since it gives developers new tools to make interesting games. But it can also stand for Dual Screens, because, well, it has dual screens.
So the 3DS stands for 3 dual screens? That's like 5 or something screens.
Well, no, I mean, that would be 6 screens if that were the case, but 3DS is just sort of a play on words. The 3D stands for 3 dimensions.
So it stands for 3-dimension screens?
Well, no, it's kind of a portmanteau of 3D and DS. So the 3D stands for 3 dimensions, but the DS still stands for dual screens.
But then it would be called the 3DDS.
No, never mind, Barjo. Let's move on to this one from Jay in Melbourne, Victoria.
Just being accurate.
It's just merging the two
Just
together.
being accurate to what you said.
3 dimensions, dual screens, 3DS.
3DDS.
Hello, GGSP. This question must be answered by all of you guys, one word at a time. In one of you episodes, there was a game that you build a robot and fight other robots. What was this game called? Also, Barjo, Hex, Goose, and Darren, do these.
Are we doing them together?
Yeah.
All right.
They're in the money. Bad.
Darren is a mega laser noob.
I'm not.
Okay, I think we can manage this. So, Barjo, I'll say the first word, then you say the next word, and we'll just continue until we've said it, okay?
Okay.
That
Game
was
called
Robocraft.
Nailed it. High five, Hex.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, even after all these years.
Oh, I am not getting into that with you again. My high fives are
There
fine.
is still a way to go with the high fives.
All right, I think we've got time for one more question today, and it's this one from Brayden, who is in Tamworth, New South Wales. Double five. Let's go.
Whoa, mixed it up.
That was really.
It's because I'm a maverick. You can't learn
Is that
that.
even a thing?
You can't learn it. You have to have it within you to let it come out. Why is Minecraft diamonds hard to find? Well, Brayden, they're hard to find because they're very rare. But they're rare because of a thing called balancing. Since diamonds are one of the strongest and most valuable things you can find in the game, they have to balance them out by making them rare.
Yeah, otherwise if they were easy to find, then everyone would have loads of the strongest and best gear in the game in no time at all.
Yeah, games often try to balance out things like that for a few reasons. One is usually just to make sure things never get too easy, and also gives you something to strive for.
Yeah, if the game just gave you all the best stuff straight away without making you work for it, then it wouldn't feel very rewarding when you did get it. But anyway, that's all the time we have for this week. If you think you'd like to ask us something, then you can send your question in here.
Shall we go back to the studio?
Let's do it. Oh, that was fancy.
Good question. What?
Darren, what happened to our chairs?
Ah, yes, a masterful burglary, wasn't it? Since our next review is The Swindle, a game all about a master thief, I thought I'd get into character and pull my own heist in the studio. Marvelous.
Yes, Darren, quite the caper, but we need our chairs to review. Come on.
Oh, negative. You'll need to practice your own swindling skills to find them. In the meantime, roll the montage, Kerry.
yours, Hex?
A newsreader was using it on the news set. This chair is for games only, Barjo.
Right, yeah, of course. Well, Kerry O'Brien was about to use mine as firewood for his fireplace in his office, which is quite nice.
Whoa, alright, well, let's just get on with the review. Swindle is a roguelike platformer that recently snuck its way onto PC and consoles. The game's plot focuses on a new anti-thievery gadget called the Devil's Basilisk that the police are planning to end your criminal career with. So it's your job to steal the basilisk before they can even activate it.
Affirmative. But before you can steal the basilisk, you'll need to upgrade your burglary skills across 100 different randomly generated heists. Getting to the money is often easy, but escaping unharmed is another matter entirely. Like many other roguelikes, this game is fiendishly hard.
It sure is brutal, Darren. Just about everything can take you out in one hit. There are the obvious things like mines and guards. But then there are loads of other things like spike pits, poison gas, and an army of killer robots like this one, and that one, and these things. Oh, you can't even trust the cute ones. Oh, so many killer robots, Darren.
I know, it's fantastic. I've been inspired by their designs. I was thinking my noob eliminating lasers were overdue for an upgrade anyway.
Yes, well, as if the army of killer robots wasn't hard enough, the game stacks the difficulty against you in other ways as well. You start off with nothing but your billy club. Critical abilities like double jumping and unlocking doors have to be purchased first, which means there are some early heists you can't even complete.
Yeah, that was a bit annoying. It's a real grind to earn the money you need for upgrades, so being forced to quit levels can be pretty disheartening. But thankfully, the thrill of successfully escaping was so exciting, I was prepared to forgive the grind.
Affirmative. I think this game balances just the right amount of patience and skill. You do need to observe the guard's patrol route so you can choose the right moment to strike, but you will also need fast reflexes when you're frantically hacking a computer between camera sweeps.
I also found that my own greed made the game harder for me. I was always tempted to be a completionist and nab every bit of cash in a level. But often that would cost me everything because dying permanently deprives you of every dollar you've earned on that heist. Oh, all my money gone.
There, Hex.
Yes, it's an easy trap to fall into. But after more than my fair share of painful deaths, I learned to swallow my pride and walk away from rooms that look too hard. Just walk away, Barjo, it's not worth the risk.
Barjo, you just need robotic reflexes like mine. I could always give you some bionic upgrades. The side effects aren't too extreme.
Okay, let's talk about that later, Darren. But you know what, overall, I think the difficulty in this game is stacked a bit too high. I found at the end of the game's 100 missions, I just did not have enough money to unlock even the final Basilisk heist.
Yeah, that happened to me as well. Then the game rolls credits, boots you back to the start, and robs you of all the upgrades you've spent hours earning. I just couldn't face the grind of doing it all again.
You know what though, Hex? I think I'm actually going to stick with this game, even with all this crazy difficulty, because with each heist I found myself getting better and better. I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
It's 2.5 rubber chickens from me. Well, we are almost at the end of another show, so Darren, it's time to reveal some answerinos.
Indeed, Hex. At the start of the show, I asked you this. In Lego Jurassic World, which of the dinosaurs has the ability to knock over trees? And the answer is... Triceratops!
Being a herbivore, I'm sure it was just hungry. Next week on the show, the long-awaited sequel to a mobile classic, Spider, Rite of the Shrouded Moon.
It's a spider sim blended with amazing puzzles. So good.
Oh, I've got a spider joke. Why did the spider go online shopping for a surfboard?
Darren, did you just make that joke up?
He wanted to surf the web.
Yeah, I think Darren just made that one up.
I thought it was pretty funny. Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out.
Darren out.